Good afternoon or good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. This is Lindsay Bradford with the Department of Education, Early Childhood, and I have with me Rebecca Lamry, who is the master of all things, master of all things. So we are going to talk today about the new eScholar direct match system, and Rebecca is going to go over how to use the system, which we hope will make your eligibility determination process a lot easier and less burdensome. So I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca.
Thank you, Lindsay. We understand that some of you on the call may be folks who work with the lead agency, and others may be vendors that provide services for the lead agencies. And so we want to make sure that both of your needs are met. So we'll start with just an overview of how the system should work. And so we'll review what it looks like for a user in the system. And then we'll talk about the files that the vendors would program for you to make this easier. Again, this process is something to help you. It's not required, but we think once you see it, you'll want to use it. So the first thing that anyone must do to access a new system is to log in. So if you choose to use this system, you'll be provided a login by the Louisiana Department of Education Early Childhood team. And once you have that login, pretty self-explanatory, you just click the link, you type in the information and click the login button. That will open you up to what eScholar has created called the Direct Match portal. And the reason it's called Direct Match is because it essentially matches the students that you submit to it to different files that are available. In this case, for this implementation, we're talking about the SNAP file, which contains a list of students who are eligible to receive food stamps, and the Medicaid file, which is a list of students who are receiving Medicaid for poverty reasons. They're at that 200% poverty level that you're looking for. So once you get into the screen, it's very simple. You click the main menu. There's a button that says Match, and you'll click that. Once you click Match, there'll be three options. The first option you don't use. That's for the K-12 implementation of this, so no need to use that one. But you will have two options available for you. Option one, you would click here if you have a file of all of the students that are going through your coordinated enrollment. You could check for this after enrollment periodically, but typically you're going to be doing this ahead of enrolling students. So you'll have a file of all of the kids that have come through coordinated enrollment, and you'll want to submit them to see if they're eligible. The second option is if you don't have a vendor, or if you just have a few students to enter, or you just want to check a few things, you can actually enter these online. So we're going to go through what the file needs to look like that either someone in your district who's really good with data or your vendor can program. But option two, again, if you don't have any of that or you're just looking for a few students, you have the option to enter each one online. So if you want to upload a file, it works like similar upload type websites. When you click the upload file, there'll be a drop-down menu. There'll be several options there, but you only want to choose one of the ones that start with ECE for early childhood education. You don't want to choose any of the other options because there are other folks that use this portal as well, and it won't give you the results you need. So there'll be ECE SNAP if you want to match to the food stamp recipient file, or ECE Medicaid if you want to match to the Medicaid file. You would click Browse, look for the file on your computer, and then once it's chosen, you would click the Match button, and that starts the match process depending on what you chose. If you chose ECE SNAP, it will match every student in that file to the SNAP file, and if you chose ECE Medicaid, it will match every student in that file to the Medicaid file. Again, as I mentioned, if you don't have the capacity or a vendor to make that file for you, you're welcome to enter them online. You would just click the third tab called Enter Online, and you would go through and type the information about your student, basic information like first name, last name, address, date of birth. If it has an asterisk on it, it is required. And so you will then also have a match button available to you. So once you choose either of those two options, you just click the match button, and then the process will begin. And once that process is completed, you'll get a message on the screen. It will say, data validation complete, ready to match. That means that it's checked and it's made sure your file is in the right format, or that when you typed everything in, you typed in all of the required fields, just a basic data validation, and you're going to click match. The computer will then start its thing, right? It goes through about 300 different steps to try to match those students to the SNAP or Medicaid file. And then when it does that, you're going to get one of three results. Either the computer can match that student with a probability score of 93 to 100. If they can match that student with a score of 93 to 100, that's an A, right? We consider that a match. That is, you will get that result back as this is a match to one of these files. If it's 0 to 87, the system will say that is not a match. And then if it's between 88 and 92, that match score, that's basically saying that the system does not know whether or not that's a match. It could be, it looks kind of close, but we're not real sure. So for those near matches, it requires a human interaction. Someone will have to go in and review the record. So again, if it's a high score, 93 to 100, the system will automatically say yes. If it's a low score, 0 to 87, the system will automatically say no. But if it's 88 to 92, you'll have to make a decision. And the things I said are on these slides. If you haven't been provided them yet, I think Lindsay actually emailed those out to you. But if not, if you don't have it, let us know. We'll make sure you have it. But this goes through everything I said. So no match is 0 to 87, and near match is 88 to 92. So the system will do that. It will go through every single record you submitted or every single student you typed in online and make a decision for every single one. And then once it's done, you can go through and resolve, we call it resolving your near matches. And so when you resolve your near match, you will be able to compare them and look side by side. And here's an example where the top section is what was sent in either on that vendor file or typed in online, and the second record comes from the SNAP or the Medicaid file. So in this example, you can see that the last name's the same, the first name's the same, and the top one they provided an alternate last name. We'll go through that. But when I look at the date of birth is different. It's the same month and the same day, but the year is different. They're both males. They're both in Caddo Parish. And so once you review this, you could either call the parent, make some, do some additional research, or if you know after reviewing it that this is the same child, you would click the match button. And you can see that at the bottom right, it says match. If after you review this, you realize, no, this is not the same student, you will click the no match button. Okay, so either match or no match. And I know what you're thinking. Well, what if I don't know? What if I can't make a decision? I'm not sure. Well, if you can't make a decision, you can always cancel the record and move on to the next record. So if you cancel that record, you'll be asked if you want to cancel it. It'll say, are you sure? And you'll cancel it. And then you can do further research later. You can resubmit it and come back to it later, but it'll let you move on to the next student. And so this is the process of how assigning and resolving matches to students works. Once you resolve the matches, you're going to want to know, well, what were the results? Was it a match? Was it a near match? Or was it a match, or was it a no match? I apologize. You would have resolved all the near matches by now. If you click download on this page when you're done, because as soon as you resolve all the matches and near matches, you'll be brought back to this screen here. If you click download right there, it will only give you the results of that file, not everything you've done, over the few weeks, because, you probably won't do everybody in your entire lead agency in one day. You probably will break this out over several days. So if you do this download, it's okay, you won't break anything, but you'll only get the results you just did. It's actually better if you go back and click the menu and choose My Students, and then you can get everybody that you submitted for the whole school year so far. That was a match to SNAP. So these are what you would choose. All schools, or you can choose a single school if you like, that were a SNAP match in 2019. And then you can click the download button and it'll give you everyone. And this is the last slide I'll cover before I pause and see if there are any questions about how this thing works. And then we'll get into the more technical vendor section. But you could have a lead agency or a school district that you work with that just says, you know what, we're going to send all these kids through for you. And then if you have any questions about it later, you can just go search. In that situation, you can search for students who have already been matched. And so by doing that, you just go to the search feature and you can just type in first name, last name, date of birth and hit search, and it will tell you if someone's already matched that student or not. So it's just a way so you do not have to go through the entire match process all over again just to answer a question about a student that you want to search for. All right, so I'm going to pause for a second and pull up the chat to see if there are any questions. But just a general overview, one, this is optional, it's not required. You can, if you have a vendor that can produce a file or somebody in your district that can produce a file, they would choose the online option. If you don't, you just want to type them in manually. They choose the upload option. If you want to type them in manually, you choose the online entry option, and then you go through the matches. So I'm going to pause just for a second to see if we have any questions. Okay, so good, we have one already. Can you match to both SNAP and Medicaid? Yes, but not at the same time because they come from two different agencies. So those files are actually sent to eScholar from two different agencies. And so you would just have to do them one at a time.
Hi, Kristen asked if LDOE is allowing to match against Medicaid for pre-K4 programs. The answer is yes. That is the 200% income limited file, which is why you can match against Medicaid using this system. But only using this file, you cannot just take Medicaid cards because some Medicaid programs are not income eligible programs. And so basically they assign Medicaid on another status, and so that wouldn't actually qualify.
Okay, so I don't see any more questions coming through, so we'll move on to the more technical pieces. Just give me 1 second. I'll pull up the file in which you would either give to your vendor or give to someone in your district who is an analyst type person that can pull together data and files for you. We're getting some notes that people can't hear. Can you hear now? Can you guys raise your hand if you can hear me? Okay, I see some hands going. I apologize. I think we were muted on the main screen here, so I'm going to scroll back up a little bit. I'll do it better this time since we have to do it again. All right, so this format is for uploading. Remember on the first section, I said if you had a file of all of your potential students that you wanted to send through this system, you could have either your vendor or someone in your lead agency create this file for you. And so this is what the file should actually look like. Well, actually, these are the directions to make it, and then I'll show you what it should look like. The first row in every file is a header record. It's just the top row that gives you a little bit of information about what's contained in the file. You put the date that you pulled the file, the time, the transmission ID, and someone who works with data or a vendor will be able to translate this into creating a file. It basically tells you how many characters each entry has to be and where they should be in the file. So that's just the first row. The last row in every file will just be a basic indicator of how many records were in the file. You have to put a record type and a transmission ID, but it's really just kind of an error check to say they had 100 records in the file. I sent 100 records. Okay, then that means nothing happened in the transmission. We have a question: is the file layout the same as the current eScholar file that we submit to get a LaCid for our students? Yes. There are a couple of things that you would leave blank here that you wouldn't leave, you may not leave blank in the other one, but the layout is exactly the same. And we built it that way to make it easier for your vendors. If you use the same vendor to get unique IDs as might do this, they probably already have it built. The main details are in the middle part, the detail record. So you have a header layout first, a header record first, then all of your details, then your very last one is trailer. So the details will tell you about the student. And a couple of things I want to call on this file is the school and site code. You may not have assigned them yet. You're probably using this ahead of putting them in a school. So you wouldn't know, you may not know the site code yet. In that case, you could actually put the letters LEA in this field, and we're going to add this to the notes for your vendor or your data person so that they know they can do that. But if you're using this for a different purpose and you already have the site code, you would put it there. I'm not going to go through this line by line because this is something you would want to provide to your data person, and then we will, after the first of the year, have another meeting about this to talk through any questions that people might have. And then I'm always available to help if they're having trouble making this file. But you have the name, gender, date of birth. A couple of ones I want to call out is social security number. It's not required for matching purposes, but if you have it, you probably would get a better match because both the Medicaid and SNAP files have SSNs in them. Again, not required. We can't make you have people put their SSN in here, but if you have it, you may want to send it. Race, ethnicity, follows the federal guidelines. And then someone had asked if it's the same as the eScholar file. Yes, but you can see that when it's for direct match, there'll be another set of information. Like for direct match, you would leave state ID number blank. The LEA code is the 3-digit code that the LDOE has assigned to your lead agency or LEA or sponsor. And then the other field I want to call out is this alternate last name, where this is helpful if you have students using hyphenated last names, or sometimes they're using the last name as the middle name, but on other records they're using the middle name as the last name. You can add that alternate last name here, and the system will use this to match if you put it in there. So just another helpful field that you can get better matches. And then there's a lot of blank fields here. But you can see in this second column, required, it will tell you if you have to have something in that field or not. If it says no, it's okay to have no data there or no information. And you can see most of them are no. Okay. Yeah, look, all of these are no, most of these are left blank. So again, I just wanted to call out a few key fields Someone who understands data or your vendor would be able to take the information you have from your coordinated enrollment process and put it into this format. But again, if you don't have anybody or just don't want to go through the trouble to do this or don't want to pay a vendor to do this, you could always enter them online. The cost of using this system is free for you. The only cost would be as if your vendor wanted to charge you to make this layout. That's it. Any questions about the upload format? And then I'll get into the options you have for downloading this information. We have a question that says, well, we need to submit this file separately from our eScholar file for LaCids. That's the unique ID. Yes, it's a different application. They're both built by eScholar. And yeah, the question is, can we submit? Okay, so this is a good question. I'm assuming you're from a K-12 district or you're talking about the K-12 work because you do this. The button that I had a big X on that said unique ID, if you're using this direct match process for students that are already enrolled in your district and they've already got a Louisiana Secure ID, you can just push a button and it matches everyone you've submitted to eScholar to the SNAP or Medicaid file, which is much, much easier. The problem is these students will not have a Louisiana Secure ID yet, probably. They're not even enrolled. Yeah, they're applying. So this is why you would have to put them in a file because they're not yet, these are based on they've applied to become children in these programs. So these would probably have to be done via file just because of the workflow of the way this happens. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to the download options really quick. This is how you'll get the data back out to you. So guys, give me 1 second. I'll switch files here. Okay. I'm a Zoom expert now. Oh wait, I promised I would show them what it would look like. And I'm not muted. Hey guys. All right, so I promised I would show you what this looks like. I know you just heard me say that. So we do have some sample file layouts. I'm going to start sharing here again so you can see it. This person I'm about to show you is not a real person. So don't worry, there is no Nick Payton with this information. But you can see the first row is that header record that we talked about. The last is the trailer record. Again, you can see there's 3 rows in this file, and oh, there's proof, there's 3 rows. And then you would put all of your kids here on the second one. There's only one example because then you could just replicate this example. But this is all of the information about this particular student that you would want to run through. Again, this is not a real student. So this is something you would also want to provide to your vendor or your data person so they would have a template to follow. All right. So let's look at the download formats and when they might be useful. All right, so now we're going to start talking about the download formats. There are actually 3 different options, and you can use them for different purposes, and I'll briefly touch it. It's also in this file about when you might want to use them. The DM, so when will you see this? I gave you 2 ways you can download a file. One is right after you match it. There'll be a download button, but again, I told you if you click the download button there, it will only give you the download of who was in the file you just sent. If instead you want every student that you've matched for the year or for a certain period of time, then you would go to that My Student section and then click download. But once you get to that download area, you'll have 3 choices. The first choice is DM index. It's the default. And it basically tells you every student either in the file you sent, if that's the way you go about getting to it, or every student you sent recently. You'll have every single one of them, some basic information about them, their student ID if they have one, the local ID, the LEA code, the site code, which as we mentioned before will probably just be the letters LEA because they don't have a site code yet. And then If they're a no match, you'll just see the words no match, no DM index record available for extract. But if they were a match, you would see, now it says SNAP here because this is just an example, but if it was Medicaid, it would be the Medicaid result. And you would see the Medicaid, the record from SNAP or Medicaid that matched that student. So it's just very basic information about the student and then all of the information from the SNAP or Medicaid file that matched that student. And this is a useful file layout for people who just want to see everybody they sent and a result for them. It's actually the easiest layout to review via human eye rather than uploading it to a system, because you can see a little bit of information about Johnny or Susie or whomever, and then if you see no match, you know immediately they weren't a match. And if you start seeing information, you know immediately they were a match. So that's one. The next one is actually the biggest extract we can possibly have on a screen, and that's the file format 3.0 extract. The difference between it and the first one is instead of, I'm going to scroll back up to the first one, instead of just seeing basic information about the student you sent, you see the entire record from the upload file. So you would see the entire 78 fields that I just went through, plus all of the records from the SNAP match. The only time I really see you guys using this is when you're done and you want to save this away for record keeping or audit preparation, because it will basically contain every single piece of information you sent about that student and every piece of information for the SNAP or Medicaid file. And so this, I put here in the description, this extract is best for record keeping or audit preparation. So you probably would only run this one when you were done for that month or that period of time or however long you're required to keep information for audit. And then the last one is probably going to be more useful for either resubmitting files or checking just pieces. And this is called file format 3.0. So you have a DM index, you have a 3.0 plus, which is that audit one I just went over, and then you have a plain 3.0. And so the regular 3.0, you can actually select what you want to show up in the file. So it's in the same format as the upload file. Why is that helpful? Well, because if you don't want to have to go to your vendor or your data person to remake you a file to send stuff through that you've already sent through, you can just have the system spit it out and you can re-upload it just like it was. So it contains the header and the trailer, and then you can choose. You can say, just give me the students that have a match or no match decision. Or you can say, just give me the kids who matched. This is the default. So this is a good layout if you only want the kids who matched. You say, look, I did all that work. That's great that I can see the match and the no match results, but what I really care about are the matches. Then you can come here and you can just choose matches. Let's say you just want the canceled. Remember I told you if you couldn't make a decision, you could cancel a record? You can come back here and say, please give me everybody I canceled so that I can go back and do my research and figure out if they were a match or not. And the beauty of this is if you download your canceled, because it's in the same format as the upload file, you can download your canceled, go do your homework, and then resubmit that file just as it is, and then go back and make the decision. And then the last option is you can download just your no matches. Look, we know kids move around a lot. They may have been off the Medicaid or SNAP file last month, but this month they're on it. So you may periodically want to run just all the children who never matched before, again, just to double check. So that's another option for you. And again, if this seems a little overwhelming to you or a little technical for you, you know, find your data person in the district, your one of your data coordinators, or talk to your vendor. And then we're here for you too. You know, my email is rebecca.lamry@la.gov, and we're going to record this. Again, I can't answer any ECE specific questions. I'll probably get myself in trouble doing that. I know enough to know that that's too complicated for me to be answering. But if it's about a data question and neither you nor your data person nor your vendor can figure it out, email me and we'll get somebody to help you. But this is just again, a way where you can submit this data without having to collect a whole bunch of income verification from parents and get it back in your hands so that you can run your process more smoothly and efficiently. So I've been talking for a long time. I'm gonna pause again and see if there are any questions or concerns, and we'll get right to you.
Hey y'all, and this is Nasha. So I just want to note that we will be providing folks access to this system in January. We'll be opening it up. Since this is the first time we're doing it, we want to make sure we do it right. So we're going to be opening it up to 1 to 2 folks per district with early childhood access. So you should start thinking now about who you would want those folks to be, and we'll be sending out a survey to collect that information.
We have a question that says, can a lead agency use this eScholar without a vendor? Absolutely. Instead of clicking upload file, and I'm going to go back really quick to that document so you can see what I'm talking about. Just 1 second, sorry. Okay, you should see my screen again here. This option 1, option 2 file, upload file, the option 1 is if you have a vendor or a data person that can put the information to those layouts, but option 2 will let you enter online. And here's what it looks like. When you click that enter online button, you can just have someone type in the child's information and then click match. And if you selected ECE SNAP, it would match to the SNAP file, and if you'd selected ECE Medicaid, it would match to Medicaid. So you do not have to have a vendor. Additionally, in the things that we provided for you in the email, you also have an example of all of the 3 extracts. So if it says input file, it's upload. If it says extract, it's the download. And so you have examples of how both of those would look for any application you have. All right, so let's see if we have any other questions. I did. So we have a question. Once you match a student, do we need to match every time the student is sent to eScholar? Let me check. Basically what the question is, for those of you who are not familiar with using this application, if I send Susie Smith through the K-12 application and I mark Susie Smith as a match, and then 3 weeks later I send Susie Smith again, I don't have to match her. But what I'm not certain on is if it's set up the same way for early childhood. If it's not, then every time you send Susie Smith, you would have to match Susie Smith again. But the difference here is because this is part of the coordinated enrollment process, I don't think you're sending them maybe every time they apply, but I think every time they apply, you have to treat them as if they were a new applicant.
Once they're eligible, they're eligible. You're good.
Okay, so you only need to do this once to get them eligible. So I don't know if if there is one, please let me know, but I don't know if there's a reason you would be sending the student multiple times throughout the year to maintain the eligibility. Okay, well, I don't see any additional questions coming in, but again, we're going to have another follow-up webinar after the first of the year. We welcome you to bring your vendors with you if you haven't already. We can answer more technical questions they may have, or your data people if they're going to make these files for you. And then we'll have support for you as you start to use this system as well. It's pretty user-friendly. I know it does seem a little scary when we start talking about file layouts and I pull open a text file and you see a bunch of letters on the screen. It can feel overwhelming, but we're here to support you. This should make your processes easier. And again, if you try it and you decide it's not for you, you're welcome to use your existing processes. We're just trying to make it more efficient for you.
So Medicaid and SNAP, these files are for income eligibility only. You will still need to review birth certificates. I think the residency requirements differ by program. So whatever your district requirements are around residency, you'll have to review for that, but you will have to review for birth certificates to verify age eligibility for programs. This will substitute for the income eligibility component. And potentially as we, learn more about this process, become more fluent in it, we'll find other efficiencies that get built in over time. But for the first year, as we're starting out, this is just for income.
Okay, so if there are no additional questions right now, we'll go ahead and end a little early. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.